Wow, Dejan Kulusevski scoring an absolutely brilliant goal to cap off a decent Spurs performance. Talk to me about Spurs. You wrote something about Postecoglou and said that Spurs needed to move on from him because they probably wouldn't reach the heights they want to with him in charge. Have you changed your mind slightly based on their recent form?
No. I think the truth is, I think he mismanaged the injury crisis because I think their form during the injury crisis was too poor. Because other teams had injuries. You had Andoni Iraola with a similar amount of injuries around the same points in time.
Yep.
Managing to get
Maybe
wins.
a bit more.
Yeah.
That's the bottom
Probably.
one.
Yeah. Managing to get wins and keeping his team consistent. So I get it. Injuries are part of it. Your performances will drop. But their performances during that period with the injuries were basically on par with Southampton. That's how bad it got. And we've been talking about how Southampton have offered basically nothing this Premier League season. So for your form to be that bad, it's not good enough. So that's where I came from. And secondly, the fact is, he's not even keeping them in Europe right now. If they were still around, if they had just kept a decent amount of form, you can imagine a late run taking them to Europe. Right now, I don't see that. And that's very disappointing. So right now, the only hope is a strong run in the Europa League. Are they still in the FA Cup?
Yeah. No.
Yes, I think Aston Villa took them out, correct? Yes. So right now, you have the Europa League is all that's left for them.
Yeah.
If they win the Europa League, that's great. They get to the Champions League. And to be fair, he's bought himself a chance to coach in the Champions League if he gets them there. I can't deny him that. But truth be told, based on results, I think he has to go because at the end of this season, it will be basically, if you think about it, they had a fast start. About their first 10 games, they won like 7. And since then, they've been very patchy. Since that initial run of games, they've never looked like a team that is going to finish in the top 4. Very patchy performances. This injury crisis had not helped. So I think the injury crisis is more like the final straw because I think there were question marks about his suitability and their consistency and whether he could ever make them a top 4 team. These questions were starting before the injuries. And then the injuries just showed that, look, this is a problem. And another thing is, his style of play is probably why they have so many injuries. The players are running too much. Offensively, they do the most sprints. Defensively, they do the most sprints. If you are sprinting the most, you are asking for muscle injuries. And we see someone like Van der Ven, he has to cover huge amounts of space. When he tears his hamstring, he tweaks his groin, whatever the case is, it's to be expected. Now, you don't have any defenders and you struggle. So part of it is because the injuries are partly because of his style of play. It's difficult for me to say, oh, the injuries are there, so you're unlucky. It's not like his players are hitting other players. You know, contact injuries are accidental. Basically, no one causes them. But their style of play is contributing to the injuries. So for me, when you add all of those things together, it just makes him the wrong appointment. Because these players, if you think about it from a business sense, they are multi-million-pound assets, and he's running them into the ground. If you own the transport company, and you had a driver who every time he's in an accident, every time he forgets to change the oil, he puts diesel when it's supposed to be petrol, you will sack him after a while. Am I wrong? But with Ange Postecoglou, he's allowed to run these players into the ground and ruin their prospective careers in the future. I think when you put all of this into context, he is not getting value for money from what he has been given because they have spent money. And he's going to have to keep buying players because injuries are going to keep happening. And it's going to be like, oh, injuries. But at a certain point, when does he take responsibility? Look at Arne Slot. He has managed his team so well that we're not seeing a lot of muscle injuries. He's keeping the players fit. That's how, and that's why you can contrast and say, look, it's not impossible to keep your players fit. It's not impossible to have a good injury record. So for me, when I look at it this way, I just don't think he's the right man for the job. Not because his teams can't win football games. I think at their best, they're one of the best teams in England. But their best is so rare, and you don't know when it will come. It's just not a process you can sustain or follow. So when you put it all together, I'm not a big fan of his tenure as Spurs coach. But I still think there's a good manager in there. I think there are some tweaks. Maybe if he lowers the intensity of his game, he works on his rest defense, so his players don't cover as much space in transition. I think he can get a lot of things done, but he just needs to make some tweaks.
Doesn't seem like a manager who likes to make tweaks.
I think there's something there for sure, but I think this Spurs job, I think he's messed it up and he has to go.
Coach, what would you say to people who would say that you spent 2 seasons buying Postecoglou his players and making this his team? Firing him will mean that bringing in another manager who will probably ask you to buy him his own set of players.
For me, look, you know my stand on firing managers left, right. I don't support that. But when it is very, very obvious and clear that it's not going to happen, then you have me come in and support it. most people said I supported Ten Hag. I still do believe that he shouldn't have been sacked because in 2 years, he came at the time where Man United had its worst ever season.
Yeah.
Given a chance, he placed third. He won the Carabao Cup. The following season, he placed 7th or 8th. He won the FA Cup. This was the most important year of the regime. But the team building had just started properly. First time, he was given a proper structure to work under. If you just oppose that against what Postecoglou is working with, I agree 100% with Soso. His biggest problem is the lack of pragmatism in his approach. Okay? This is your team. You've been given the players that you requested for. How then, or how well can you help your team to make sure that they go the entire week? Look, it's a journey.
Yep.
It's a very long journey.
Marathon.
And especially what actually gets me annoyed, yes, that's the right word, gets me annoyed about him is the fact that you play on Thursday, there's no time to recover. You come on Sunday and you are demanding that they go at the same intensity. Nobody does that. Look, I used to follow Sir Alex Ferguson, Arsene Wenger, and those guys. Normally when Man United those days or Arsenal those days go to Europe, especially when they travel a long distance, when they come back home, they tend to slow down the tempo of their games because they know they've got the quality.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, their quality will show and they'll win it. But with this particular manager, like Susu said, about 95% of the injuries that his players have sustained has not been as a result of they've been contacted by any other player, but simple jogging, simple walking, simple running. Then the hamstring is gone, the groin is gone, there's a calf muscle, there's this. If you're a manager, I ask yourself, what are the medics doing in the team? What sort of medical advice are they giving to the manager? These are things that should be diagnosed properly by the medics. They tell, look, per the way we play our football, per the stats that we are watching, most of these injuries is as a result. So can we
do something different, lower the
be
intensity?
a bit pragmatic? Yes, even against the teams that they are expected to lose against, where you now think that because of the quality, Liverpool, Arsenal, let's say Man City or some, because of the fact that in terms of quality they don't match up, one would have thought that those games are perfect games where you get them to sit back, very pragmatic, and play to their counter-attack. But rather, they go for it. And against the teams that they are expected to beat, they also go for it at the same intensity. You cannot manage. At the end of the day, it will end up to be what? Money bad spent. Because if these players, like the Dutch boy,
Van der Ven.
look, he's a player I
He's been injured every season.
He's
He's
if
been
that
injured
boy can
twice already
stay
this
fit,
season.
if he can stay fit, he'll be the best defender in the league, simply because of his recovery. No defender in the league recovers better.
Winger's pace.
In fact,
Look,
when you do the
electrifying.
stats for like top speed,
That's right.
He's first every
That's what
season
I'm
he
saying.
came to the Premier League.
No, but and if you're a coach and you've got a defender who guarantees you proper recovery when you are
A
exposed,
defender who's quicker than wingers.
you need to keep him fit.
Well, but you see, that's exactly why he plays that way, because he knows that Van der Ven, if they lose the ball, he can run.
No, but he has to be smart. Yes, that is the advantage. That is a plus.
Mind you,
but you don't
Van
abuse it.
Van Dijk is quite fast too. You don't see coaches putting him.
They
in a
don't
position-
use him like
No.
that. Yeah.
No, you don't do that. So look, the lack of smartness and the lack of proper pragmatism in his approach will cost him his job eventually.
Hans Postecoglou, my guys say you need to go because you are gradually sinking the ship at Spurs. I don't know if I agree, or I'm neither here nor there on the matter. I think that he probably should be allowed to try and see if he can salvage this season, see where the season ends. But let's take our first break here on the show. When we come back, we'll bring you highlights of that Arsenal versus West Ham game. We have a tactical breakdown as well for you on that game. So don't go anywhere. Stay with us here on Scorecard.